7 o'clock, we're going to go ahead and get the meeting started. This is a meeting to make up for the missed meeting that we did not have a quorum last week. We have a quorum today. We have all 4 members of the board present. The first item would be public comments and request time. Jerry Hartman. I don't believe I saw him come in. Okay, we'll move on to the next one. Karina Branson-Jones.
So I'll stand up here so you guys can see me also. First off, I would like to formally request that the board change the rule of the 7-day request for comment and suggestion for the public. If the minutes are not going to be posted until 24 hours, which would be like a Friday, there are some things that may be resolved within the agenda that a person would want to comment on. So having a 7-day window where you have to request to speak before the agenda's even out, I think that's a little overkill. Maybe 2 or 3 days would probably be. So I would like to request that the board review that. What I requested to speak about today, and I have some questions that I have printed out for you guys as the board member in case we don't get through it. I would like an answer to these. You may need to review with the attorney. Number 1, do you plan to present a bond issue before the voters, yes or no?
We're looking into it. We have the attorney investigating it for us and
Okay.
letting us know what steps would need to be taken in order to do that.
Okay, so yes, you intend to present a bond
We're
issue?
looking into it.
Okay. When do you plan to present the bond issue?
The attorney at the next meeting should give us some insight as to the steps required in order to get a bond issue on the ballot. Also, we would need to know the amount of the bond, so we would need to be working with our engineer, which we are, to determine what the plan would cost to look into the total cost of build out for the water district. So.
Okay, so when do you feel like you'll get some type of engineering study or get with the engineer on that?
We're going to look at the time frame for the bond issue, and then from there we'll figure out how quick we need to get the engineering study done.
Okay, is that something that's been budgeted for the 2024 budget?
It's not currently in the budget, but we also planned when we pass the budget to review the budget at 6 months. So
Okay.
it's something that could be added to the budget as needed.
Obviously, you've had conversations with the attorney. How much do you anticipate that the bond would be for?
That's going to be kind of a sliding scale, trying to figure out with the engineer what we're going to need. So we would go out for a certain dollar amount for the bonds, and then we would determine what we need in order to get there over a period. The sooner we can get upgrades done, obviously the cheaper it's going to be. So.
Okay, so as far as having the engineering study done, you anticipate doing that. Has there been any conversation as far as rate studies, what the anticipated bond payment would be per year?
We have our accounting firm that's been working on our rate study. They're going to be presenting at the next month's meeting in order to look at a rate change, probably mid-year, and then recommendations for the years to follow, which would include the possibility of paying off a bond, making a bond payment too.
So is that, I mean,
obviously we got a lot of ducks that we have to get in a row,
Yes.
and so we can't put one before the other. But we have our accountant working with our attorney as well as our engineer too to try to coordinate everything.
so as a board, how do you feel the bond issue will accomplish any goals for reduction in water loss to an acceptable level?
Well, I think the bond issue, one of the primary components of the bond issue would be paying for line replacement. And line replacement is going to take care of the water mains that are 50 plus years old and replace those with new lines that would last us another 50 to 60 years. So that would accommodate significant water loss. We've actually made a lot of progress on the water loss, and you'll hear that on the operations review.
I would beg to differ on that. I've calculated the numbers and it seems like it's up actually. And then what do you consider an acceptable level?
Of what?
Water loss.
I'd say we need to definitely within the next couple of years get below 20%.
Below 20%.
We need to be closer to 10, in my opinion.
Okay.
If we get the major upgrades, we should be able to drop it down to well below 10.
So has anybody done any calculations, any crunching numbers on how much the bond issue would be and how much that would cost as far as a bond payment each year.
We're still in the process of doing that. We're having the attorney work on it first, and we'll go from there.
So I guess my point to explain is a $5 million bond with a 20-year term would be approximately $400,000 a year bond payment. Right now, the current budget is a little over $400,000. Last year, before the rate increase, it was $340,000 per year. So basically, to accomplish the goals that would maybe be $5 million, you're looking at doubling rates.
We don't know that yet because we haven't done the engineering study and figure out how much we actually need to spend to get there.
Yeah, so if you have a $10 million bond, which let's realize if we're going to think about replacing every water line that is in this water district, do we really think that that's gonna be accomplished in $5 million, even $10 million? So I just want to let everybody know that there's been a lot of things thrown out there. There's even been people that have said,
We were past the 5 minutes.
okay. I would appreciate an answer on my final question about the bond issue as far as the amount and,
We'll get
Yeah.
those answers.
okay, thank you.
The next person wanting to speak is Richard Gardner.
Gardner.
Gardner, sorry.
So I have a few questions, but first I would just like to say for the calendar year of 2023, PWSD number 1, Stone County, reported a 60% water loss rate. That loss equated to 79,187,898 gallons of treated water. For reference, this amount of water loss is equal to 120 Olympic-sized competition swimming pools, each of which holds 660,000 gallons of water. To add to that reference, imagine 1 in every 7 members of the water district with an Olympic-sized swimming pool in their backyard. That's how much we're losing. Year after year, the trend continues to climb. The first 2 months of 2024 show 74% loss in January and 77% loss in February. This comes to a 2-month loss total of 16,734,757 gallons. At this rate, the district is on track to lose 100 million gallons this year. With that said, I have the following questions to the current efforts of the water district in regards to installing pressure relief valves. And this might be for you, John, are the PRVs and installations being done in accordance with AWWA standards and requirements?
AWWA.
It's American Water Works Association. It's the standard for public water.
Well, yeah.
Okay. There has not been an engineering study performed since 2017. On whose advice was it suggested that the installation of PRVs, and let me be clear, I believe PRVs are probably necessary in many places because of the pressure. But whose advice was it to install PRVs to such a compromised infrastructure that it would greatly reduce the total water loss?
It's on me.
Okay. Does the district at minimum have any information from a qualified engineering firm that provides an estimate of how much water loss will be prevented by installing the PRVs?
We don't. I had discussions with Jerry, the engineer, about the placement of the PRVs and just the common sense that it was a good idea to get the pressures down where it was necessary because we were having the largest amount of breaks and breaks equate to water loss in the areas where we had 150 to 200 PSI. So putting the PRVs or even having the PRVs that we have operating was detrimental to stop that from happening. And that obviously would bring the water loss down as well.
Okay, my question would be that without having an engineering study done and moving forward with the PRVs, which like I said, I think they're probably necessary in some places, but let's be honest, as a district, that the water infrastructure is so compromised that it's not going to play a large role in actually fixing the water loss, the PRVs, not without switching out or coming in and doing a major overhaul to the infrastructure. So with that, I think that's my last question. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Appreciate it. Jerry didn't come in, did he? Okay.
No, he had a Mayfly project meeting, he couldn't make it.
I'll give him a chance in case he had. Okay, item C, approval of minutes of the special meeting for January 26th, 2024, February 6th, 2024, and regular meeting February 26th, 2024. I need a motion to approve those minutes, please.
I'll make a motion.
I'll
Approve.
second. Motion's been made and seconded to approve all three meetings minutes. Do I have any discussion on the motions? All in favor? Say
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? Passes, thank you. We're gonna move on to a financial report. Our CPA was at the last meeting when we didn't have a quorum. We did get a chance to talk with him fairly extensively about the transition to the CPA, helping us out with accounting. Amanda, I want you to kind of go over the checklist of where you guys are at and modifying our accounting to accommodate the accounting firm, please.
Sure, Jason. The first thing that they've done is they took boxes of documents from us, 2023, and they've entered them all into QuickBooks and balanced the entire year and got everything up to date on that. They've also taken our 2024 and any emails I get, any bills, any statements from the bank, anything with any monetary amount on it, I send to them, just right off the bat. And then if Alan has questions or if I have questions, we do email pretty regularly back and forth, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. As far as everything goes, they seem to be doing a great job. I know Debbie's had some conversations with them just to get some stuff done, and we did purchase, as you guys know, the software to be able to do the work orders. And so we have been working to get inventory put into that. And so what we do with that is we take price sheets, price sheets when they go purchase items, and we enter it in, and then when we enter them all in, it'll throw up the cheapest price so that we can select that one, or we can go through and select where we actually purchased it from. So it does help us keep our costs down for various other types of things that we have been doing. But that's really all I have. They've been doing a great job for us. Everything, like he said when we were visiting with him last week, that everything's going according to plan. Of course, the first couple of months are pretty difficult getting everybody on board, getting everything done right, getting everything paid, which we've done a good job keeping in touch with about that. And so I really have no complaints about them. I think they're doing a fantastic job. Alan has several water boards that he works with, and from what I understand, he's doing a stellar job.
Alan also reached out to me and said that if anybody in the public ever has any questions in regards to the accounting of the water district, that he has an open door policy. You can give him a call anytime. You can get his cell phone number from the office. So he'd be happy to discuss it with anybody, their methodology on the rate study, as well as any accounting questions they might have. So, Amanda, you want to go over the rest of the financial report, please?
Sure. The rest of the stuff that we have is just basic, kind of run-of-the-mill normal bills here. The first thing, you'll have to excuse me if your packets are a little out of this insert. Everything is there, I promise. It didn't, when I printed them, it didn't collate them. So I had to go through and individually package these things right there. There is information from the bank there, and it is just a interest deposit of $2, so don't go spend it all in one place. The rest of it balanced, really, it all balanced with receipts that I had received from John. So there was nothing out of the ordinary. Payroll, LJ. There is one thing, if you'll turn to the Ameritrust, it does look like this.
I didn't grab one.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm not really sure what this is. I am going to visit with Sharon, who is our insurance agent, about this. It is a Ameritrust group, Star Insurance Company. It's a $500 occurrence. It's a claim on and it doesn't necessarily tell me what the claim is, so I need to get with her on that.
We had damages, requested on a claim with the insurance company, that's our deductible to pay in order for the insurance company
Okay,
to pay for that claim.
Okay, great, we'll get that paid then. And that's really the only thing that's out of the ordinary in there. Wind water, they're great to work with, they deliver everything, and, don't charge us for that, they just eat our candy, sorry, Bill. So that's really about all I've got. As far as bills go, everything, there's nothing, like I said, nothing out of the ordinary there. There is one for Adam Rager, who is is that how you say his last name?
Oh, no.
Adam?
Adam.
Yeah. Great, okay, for some excavation work that he and John did together, and that was paid. And that is about all I've got. This one random sheet here that has, it says transaction amount, single credit checking. That is how the credit card payment comes out. That is the document that they let me print. So it's very official looking right there. But yeah, that's about all I've got there. If you guys have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Brandon?
Yes.
Did you bring up the other,
Not yet, it's not time yet.
I apologize for being late.
So Amanda, do you have the totals for the disbursement for February?
For the disbursements of February, let me look here. Sheet here. It will be, I just saw it here. It is on the accountant's page, let me find it. The total expenses as of February 23rd were $26,219.17.
I know the accountant was gonna present that, when he was at the meeting.
Right.
He's not here at this meeting simply because he, it's tax time and he wasn't able to get away for this meeting, but he will be at the next meeting. And they will be presenting the disbursements from there on. We've got a copy of every single receipt that you've got here too, so that's, I do like the fact that
Yeah.
you see all that too.
Absolutely.
That amount was again, I'm sorry?
Oh, I'm sorry, it was, $26,219.17.
I entertain a motion that we approve the disbursements of $26,219.17.
I make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes. Operations report for February, John Dowdy.
Well, Mona's not here to go over her report. Her husband was in the doctor today, so she was not able to make it. But you can kind of see from January to February, the big thing was in January, we pumped like 12 million gallons. In February, we were down to 9 million gallons. Water loss was still a little high, but I'm working on that. If you guys got any questions about the report?
I would like definitely for you to elaborate on all the big leak that you found that you were gonna talk about last.
Yeah, I got it in, definitely in my report. You guys have any questions about Mona's report?
No.
Okay. The second sheet you guys will see there, or I don't know if you guys got this sheet.
I think we got this.
Yeah, it's not in color like this, but the reason I was referring to this is a printout of the capability that the digital meter that we have at the office well is capable of. And so all the data that collects continuously. And so you can see, and this is coming into February and March, but you can see a downward trend in the amount of water that we pumped on a daily basis. We got down to 180,000 gallons, which as soon as it gets warm, the water starts going back up, the usage starts going back up, but we were continuously showing a downward trend as these leaks are getting fixed. Something else of note before I even get into it, and I think I might have mentioned it in the report too, is since all the PRVs have been repaired and the new ones installed, we have not had one break. Everything that I fixed up to from February or beginning of March till now has been ones that were existing that I found and repaired. the listening devices made that very easy to do. So the first thing that I'm gonna talk to you about on my report is the Lakeshore PRVs. I kind of did a crude map right here where it's placed at. It's at the very end of Lakeshore, right after Lakeshore and Sycamore and Skyline split. That 2-inch PRV was already existing there. It's a high flow PRV that was not operating. So I was able to go in and clean that and adjust that and get that operating again. And you can see on here, but at the bottom of Lakeshore at the very end, we were having 180 PSI, and now got that down to 80, 90 PSI down in those range. Much safer range. And then after I get done with this one, we'll go to the Pine PRV that I installed, but I rerouted there's normally closed valves where they have the system isolated in certain areas, and I changed the way that works to kind of split the amount of water that's going through Lakeshore's PRV, and then with the PRV that I installed on Pine. And I think I did these within a few days of each other, so just kind of rerouted it a little bit so they're both controlling about the same amount of the system. So moving on to the Pine PRV, I use the same watts 2-inch PRVs that I've used in every other location that we use as bypass PRVs to kind of make sure that we have some consistency in the PRVs that we have. They're easily find. You can buy them in many places, so we can have them as backups. And even if we had to use a few of them, they're easy to attain. So what I did here is at number 3 Pine, and this is where Pine and Skyline split. Down on the bottom are Redbud, Pioneer, and down in this area Dogwood. Again, we'd have pressures that was around 200 PSI down there, and we have a tremendous amount of leaks in those areas. So what I did with the isolation from Lakeshore and isolating this from Bridgeview is the highlighted section that you see here where the X is at the top is where I installed a new Watts PRV at 3 Pine. And then the red lines in the end is where I've isolated the system and dropped the system PSI again at the very ends at Redbud from 200 PSI down to around 100. So we stopped getting those blowout leaks that we have down there. I'm sure there's existing small leaks in those areas, but the amount of water flow going through that PRV is not extreme. So I don't think that there's anything big in those areas. And so with the installation of that PRV, everything from Skyline to Lakeshore on the bottom side of the peninsula is now under pressure regulated control. So that area is all under control. So now I'm moving towards the Hickory Edgemont area. The next page that I'll talk about is, I'll do the other work page here real quick. This is just small stuff that I did. There was a service line break at 143 Lakeshore, was actually just below that PRV. Repaired that. Leak at Valley View, that was another service line repair, broken service line that I found because we had high usage after we read meters. Repaired a leak there. Okay, this was at the church that's directly across from the Oakwood condos, right at the top of James River, the first church down on the left-hand side. I suspected a leak in that area for some time, and so I started to excavate that area and found 3 leaks. They were small, there was not a lot of pressure there, but found the way it was plumbed in the past, it was going to be prone to leaks. So I cut out that whole section and replumbed the whole thing. I'm fixing all those leaks. Installed the battery backup in the PLC, which we talked about at the last meeting, and it's now functioning. The US filter panel stays up and running when the power goes out. Let's see. Tore down. Okay, so the reason I did this is the abandoned booster pump shed that was at the well. It needed to go anyway, but before spring comes, there's a lot of vines that grow around the ground storage. And the last time that I inspected the ground storage, some of the grounds were infiltrating the ground storage tank. And so I wanted to remove the vines that was shed and the groundwater storage were 4 inches apart. So I just took the liberty of eliminating the shed, getting that out of there. So we could get in there.
Had the door.
Yeah, the door was
basically
gonna,
wide open.
and actually it had power to it, and the power was working. So I fixed that too. But anyhow, the shed's gone and the debris still there, but I'll eventually get it hauled away. Let's see, that, and I just talked about that. Okay, so the new booster pumps, we know we had trouble with them. They wouldn't restart after a power outage, and they needed a software update. Finally got Franklin Pumps there. They did a software update on both VFDs independently, and then they was doing a software update on the control panel, which is not necessarily a Franklin panel, it's through a third party. And they had trouble with that. That's why the water was off so long that day. The control panel would not communicate with the VFDs after they did the reboot on it. So it took them 2 hours, and they had to put 3 different programs in it before they finally got it to come back up and running. But now I'm able to monitor pump run times, see accurate gallons per minute that the pumps are dispersing, and the pumps do automatically come back on when there's a power outage.
Is it
So-
load balancing too good?
And they're load balancing, they transfer just like there's every 12 hours, they switch back and forth. And that's what I was saying, I have the ability to monitor that now. Before, I didn't have any way to even know that it was transferring back and forth unless I was standing there watching it do it. Now I can actually see how many minutes and hours each pump is ran, so I can make sure that it's load balancing. So this is going on to White Rock Lane. So right after we got the listening device, this area, obviously, everybody knows we've dug it up a million times. The area of White Rock and Redbud, I took the listening device right there and found 2 very large leaks. So one leak in the intersection of White Rock and Redbud, where I was aware of running water and have been for many years. I found the leak right in the middle of that intersection. And these are rough estimates on there, but that was a 4-inch crack in that 4-inch main and 110 pounds of pressure. And the estimates on that is in the millions of gallons a month that one leak was losing. I mean, just a soft estimate on 4 million gallons a month was going through that one leak. So we actually went across the whole intersection and changed all that from end to end, so we don't have to dig up the road again in the future. And then further back at number 3 White Rock, found another leak there. It was on a 2-inch main, and it'll probably be, a soft estimate on then 800,000 gallons a month from that leak, and was able to stop that leak and fix that properly too. And then while I was there, I don't know if you guys are aware, but in that down White Rock, there's a 4-inch and a 2-inch main that run parallel with each other. I believe the intent was when they were installed is they put the 4-inch main in there to eventually abandon the 2-inch. And they hadn't done that yet. So what I did is I made sure that number 3, number 1 Redbud, all those homes in that area were hooked to that 4-inch main, and I shut that 2-inch main off, and it is now abandoned. So that area of 2-inch main can no longer leak. So we've eliminated that problem altogether. And then with the new valve that we installed at the corner of White Rock on that 4-inch main, because the 4-inch main is prone to leaks because of the high pressure there, I shut it off from the other end, and it's now being fed from the skyline side. So it's only got about 60 pounds of pressure. So the chances of it blowing out are much more slim. And I talked about that in here. And again, these are just estimates. In months to come, the water loss will reflect this. But if it's correct if the estimates are correct, it could be up to 25% of the current water loss could have been in those 2 leaks. And just to touch on that point, just from my experience in the water system, I don't think that there's a million leaks in the system. I think that there's several, I don't want to even say several, I think that there's a few big leaks that just have not been addressed. And moving on from the other work, I'll go into the next one that I think is there, and that's Irish Hills. So I did a whole sheet on this because I think it's going to become a big issue as we move forward. So another area where I thought there was a lot of water, well, I know there's 75% water loss, I think, in the Irish Hills through our sub-meter, and we believe that sub-meter to be accurate. So I went to the listening device and took it into the Irish Hills to try to find some water loss there. In this area of the pond below it, again, there's a swamp in that area, and it has been that way for a long time. So I tried to run the listening device across where, when you had the engineering study done in 2017, they showed the main running along the edge of the road on the opposite side of the pond, then around the corner going on down towards Blarney Way. So I ran the listening device there, and when there's a lot of water flowing through the pipe, I can hear the water flowing. So I can kind of follow the main as it goes. The water main does not run along the edge of the road. The water main crosses the spillway and then it goes off into the woods. And it's actually going right down there where all that water is at the bottom of the hill. The problem is I can't get to it. So it's overgrown. There's a lot of trees down there, and I have no idea. Once it gets down to the bottoms, I have no idea where it goes to there, how it even gets back to the road. But it's not following what it's doing on our maps. So I talked with the homeowner here about going in there and cutting some of the brush that's in there, so I can access at least into the bottoms to try to figure out where that water's coming from and fix that. He was not super excited about that idea of me cutting any of the trees. So I'm gonna have to have more discussions with him about that. And it may be that I have to have a contractor go down. I don't even know if our backhoe will get down there. The hill is steep going down to where the water main goes. But this month, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to dig on the pond side of the spillway, and I'm gonna install a valve there so I can isolate that area, and then it'll kind of give me an idea of what size main's there and the exact direction that it's going when it goes into the woods. And then we can start working with that homeowner to make a plan to get us some kind of access as an easement so we can clear it and get in there and make some repairs. But it's possible that the main runs through where this yellow line, so the blue line is where the map currently shows it, and it's possible that the main is following this yellow line on the back side of all those empty lots on Irish Hill going towards Blarney Way. And I mean, it'll be a big job to go through there and try to find leaks on all that. I've walked the whole area, and there was only 2 areas that had a tremendous amount of water. But again, I have to find out where the water main's out there before I can even try to make a repair. Once you get through the woods, once you get past the pond, it's a lot easier to access. There's a bunch of empty lots, and then there's an electric right of way, which I think is where the water line is actually at. And if we find something in there, it'll be easy to access and get it repaired. But that'll be a big thing going forward, and I think that'll be a huge part of our water loss in the Irish Hill, if not all of it.
So let me ask you this, we obviously have a meter that goes down there, we believe it's accurate, and we're looking at what comes through that meter and what we're actually selling beyond that. We're looking at 70% water loss just in that one section. If we were to get a handle on that, how big would that impact our overall water loss?
It'd be a huge impact. I mean, I forget, I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, how many gallons are pumped into Irish Hills and how many gallons are sold in there. But I mean, obviously at 75% loss, it's a huge difference. So it'll make a huge impact on the, I mean, it's gonna be millions of gallons in savings as well. And we'll probably get it in one leak. But the reason, even if there's a large leak there, the reason that it's not affecting people further down is, again, the PRV is way up here. Once you get down to the bottom of the hill, the pressure is back up to 120 PSI. So even if there's even if that pipe's almost busted in half, people at the end are still getting water. It's just gonna move right past it. It'll spray out and continue to move past it, and people at the end will still get water. It's amazing, but I mean, it happens. I've seen service lines that were completely broken in half and the people still had water in their house. So, that's just moving forward. I just want to make you guys aware of that problem, and it's gonna take a lot of conversations with the homeowner to get in there, but hopefully we can,
Is there any other way you can do it? Other way?
well, once you get, I mean, his property, there's a sort of where the spillway goes off into, there's a huge valley that runs through there. And I can't get across the valley to get back to it from the backside, but either way, it's running directly through his property. And, like I said, he wasn't mad about it, but he wasn't excited about us taking trees out. But a lot of, I mean, I'm not talking about taking down 30-year-old trees, I'm talking about 10-foot tall trees, you know, that have been, I don't even know when this line was installed, but that have been able to grow back over the main since it was installed. And it may be an issue where we get in there and find out that if it's galvanized steel and it's so badly deteriorated that that maybe that's a section where you do spend some money to put in a new main to just completely bypass this. But it would be, I mean, it'd be all the way around this corner, it'd be a large investment moving forward. And then move on to future work. So,
Well, before you get on to future work,
Yep.
you wanna talk about the generator.
Yeah, that's, it was in future work and now it's done, so.
I just knew it was done, and I knew you were going to future work, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna make sure that we're
So
covering
the
that.
generator transfer switch, I had scheduled to be installed, last Thursday, and I had it on here, to just let you guys know, but they did come out. And so we ran into a snag when we did that also. So the generator switch is actually working great. It is under complete automation. If the power goes out for 15 seconds, the generator automatically kicks on. The power comes back on for 3 seconds. The generator automatically goes into a cool down phase and kicks off. And then it has a self-cycling mode. It kicks on at 10 a.m. every Wednesday morning, just to cycle itself, just to keep the generator and out of disrepair.
Just on a side note, just thinking about this, neither one of those churches have Wednesday morning services, do they? That generator's pretty loud.
It is pretty loud, and I didn't consider that.
You
when I
might
had
wanna,
them set
you
the
might wanna
time up.
check into that.
Yeah,
'cause
we can
I've
check-
been
we
up
can
there when
change
that
the
thing was
time.
running,
It
it's
is very
fairly loud.
Yeah. So, that is completely done. The snag that I was gonna say that we ran into when we were there is, so I got them started on taking the old transfer switch out. They called me and they said they couldn't kill the power. We had a main power disconnect. They shut that power disconnect off, but it was not killing the power. And after further investigation, he opened up the panel and 2 of the legs of the 3-phase was melted shut inside the panel. So the panel was destroyed. And we actually had to have the power company come out. It was awesome. They did it on short notice. They come out, they pulled the power, and we were able to find a direct replacement main shutoff, and was able to get it that day, and the generator guys actually installed it for us. So it kept us from having to have the well down for multiple days, and we was able to get it all done in one day. And it's up and running, and it's working great, no problems at all. I'm still working on the continuous chlorine analyzers and the RACO system to get that finished up and get Pedrati out there to get all the electronics on it hooked up. This is something that I just
Can you
found.
explain to people, what the chlorinators, the analyzers actually do?
Yeah, so we're putting in continuous chlorine analyzers and a RACO system. The continuous chlorine analyzers monitor the chlorine residual in the water continuously, all the time. And with the RACO system will hook up to, it's a cellular network that we can monitor it all the time. So it'll hook up to the meter on the well. It'll give us any alerts, tower height, system PSI, and then the chlorine residual itself. So we'll be able to monitor that from anywhere at all time, and then collect live data on it all the time, which is great too. And we're looking to have them installed in both locations, or do have them installed. We just have to finish the plumbing on them, and then have the firm that sold them to us come out and wire them for us.
I don't mean to keep on interrupting you.
No, it's fine, man, I understand. And then this is just a side note to mention, the secondary booster that pumps out of the ground storage into the tank, the back check on it went bad. So we already ordered the new parts for it, and the back check, still haven't received it yet, and I'll have to rebuild that. And that booster is currently offline until that is fixed. What was happening is the back check was not closing, and the tower was bleeding back into the ground storage, and then the ground storage was pumping through the other pump back into the tower. So it was just kind of doing a loop. And so we got it shut down until that is repaired.
When do you expect that?
Blue Book is pretty sporadic. Sometimes we order stuff and it shows up in 2 days, and other times I order stuff and it shows up in a week. But we still have the one transfer pump
The
working.
2 pumps are load balancing, so
Yeah.
when one's offline, the other one's,
Yeah. So the other one's working fine. We've had no problems with it. And once I get hopefully in the next week, once I get the check valve, I'll have it changed out in a day. So then I put on here that I did another attempt to rebuild the Hickory PRV, and just because of the age and the deterioration, we actually found a booklet that had the age that PRV was installed in 1981, and I had no further documentation, so I'm assuming it was the same one that was installed in 81. So after rebuilding it, I could not get it to operate the way that it's supposed to. So we did order another one, and we actually received it 2 days ago, and I installed it today. So all the PRVs are working, and they're all working as they should. That one is the new one that we put in is a Watts PRV, and it's working phenomenal. It's doing great. It was actually, it worked out great for me. I was able to pull in place the one that was there without having to do any excavation, without having to cut any line out. I was able to unbolt it and take it out in place, make some adjustments, and put the new one right in place, and turned it back online. It's working great. It's letting out 50 pounds, and hopefully it lasts us another 30 years like the last one did.
So going back to the PRVs, when you first came on board with us, we had a number of PRVs that were already on the ground. And as you went around and evaluated those, how many of those were not working? Did you say they're all working now?
Yeah. So there was Irish Hills, Gulf Crest, Hickory, Hilltop, and the one on Wilderness. So there were 6 that were not operating. 7. Skyline was not operating correctly either.
And all of those are functioning now?
And they're all functioning, yes. So the two in Irish Hills, there's 2 mains there, one on each side of the road. And the way that I use them, I kind of keep one side dead. I shut it off above that one. We run the water across the road and feed the bottom side with one PRV, and it's kind of a backup. So if something happens to this PRV, you can turn to the other side of the road, feed from that side, and then make a repair on this PRV without having to shut that system down. It's the way they all should be, but they don't have bypass PRVs, so that's the way you kind of have to do it in those areas. And then I put on here that I'm going to be talking with Jerry about the placement of an additional PRV further down the mountain from Hickory. For 2 reasons, because if Hickory PRV quits, there's going to be a leak. Because once you get, you're surpassing 220 PSI on Walnut and Cedar and Lower Lakeshore and stuff like that if that PRV fails. So having another one in between will not only lower because I have the PRV set at 50 pounds right now, by the time you get to just the dip in Edgemont at the bottom of Hickory, you're back to 100 PSI. Or 120 PSI. So just putting another PRV in that area to drop it, so by the time you get to Walnut, you're still at 60, 80 PSI, and then you have a fail-safe. So if one fails, you still have one protecting the lower side of the peninsula. So I'll be talking with Jerry about, it's all gonna become about elevation, because we don't wanna install one too close to someone that's gonna drop their pressure at their home to 40 PSI or something like that. So it's gonna be all about perfect placement for it. And then I wanted to talk to you guys about, we've been doing some research on these digital pressure monitors. So they're similar to the RACO unit, but they have 5-year lithium batteries. They're able to be, the way they're designed is they're designed to be tapped to the main and installed on the main, but they're quarter inch hookup. So what I'd like to do is I'm trying to get some pricing from them. But they're made to be put inside of a vault or a standpipe or a pit. I'd like to mount them on those major PRVs. And the way that they plumb, I can take my quarter-inch gauges off the PRV and install these, and then you will have an app that will just be just like the RACO unit. You can set parameters on there at 65 PSI, and if a PRV exceeds that pressure, it will immediately alert you. Because if you get that alert and you're able to show up there in 15 minutes and shut that PRV off, you can save a main break and just one installation. So having it on the Hickory and Hilltop and the major PRVs, I think would be a great idea to be able to monitor them, because I could go by there once a week. I could go by there, every day. I could leave there at 2 o'clock at the Hickory PRV, and at 2:15 it could blow apart. And I wouldn't know that anything had happened until somebody called and said there's water running down the road. I would have no idea. But the first thing I would do, as soon as somebody calls about Hilltop and says, or Gulf Crest, and says there's a leak down here, I immediately go to the PRV. And 90% of the time, that's what the problem is. The PRV is stopped, and it breaks something. And then you have a leak, and then you have to not only go fix the PRV, but then you have to go back and fix your leak too. So just trying to prevent those. If one of them prevented one leak, it would pay for itself. But that'll be coming up. So like I said, I'm trying to get some more information, find some more companies that make these types of things, and get some prices on them. And then, this wasn't in your paperwork, I'm just kind of touching on it. Me and Mona are going to be working on sub-meter accuracy the way that the system is laid out and trying to make sure that the system's isolated so all the sub-meters are accurate, reading accurately. We already know that 2 of them that are not because the system's not isolated properly. And then, the other thing is the printout for the digital, meter that is at the office well. I ordered another one of those meters to install at the tower well, because the tower well still has a analog, meter on it, and the accuracy is questionable at best. And just the amount of information, that we can retrieve off these digital meters, and then again, be able to hook them up to the RACO unit for it to alert us for high usage. Any type of situation like that will be detrimental in the future. So I ordered another one of those, and as soon as we receive it, we're supposed to have it in 3 weeks. I'll have it installed. And then it'll hook up to the RACO unit, and we'll be able to monitor water flow there in both places from anywhere. I think that's it. I think that's all. Amina's got something to.
I do have something to add. I don't really know where these go, so I just kind of put it at the end. There's a gentleman, it's in your board packet, his name is Gary Donaldson. If you turn the page, there's his information there, and the 3rd page shows his usage. And he was actually incapacitated for a little bit, and you can see the month of February, his usage went up significantly from what it usually is, from 600 gallons to 27,000. And so he was not able to be home at that time, and he was going to visit with us about adjusting. Is that what it was? Adjusting his.
Yes, he was in the hospital, he was actually in hospice care. And, Mona suspected a leaky toilet. And he was not aware of it when he went to the hospital for a month. So he was asking about, he had asked Mona about an adjustment on his bill, and she had mentioned that we would bring it to the board. So that's where we're at.
I'll double check the policy, but I believe our policy is that if there's a known leak, did he make any repairs that we know of?
No, and when we found out about it from doing meter reads, and every time we have something that's over 10,000, 20,000 gallons, I go and investigate. When I went there was no leak, but he was back home then.
Yes, it was.
So if it was a leaky toilet, a flapper that
It just got stuck while
got
he
stuck
was-
wide open while he was in the hospital for a month, I mean, and then when he came back, he flushed the toilet and it fixed it, I mean, it's possible.
So I believe, Amanda, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe our policy is anything over 20,000 gallons when there's, when there is a leak, that,
That's correct.
do we make an adjustment
Yes,
past the
that's
20,000? Did we offer that to him yet? Have we?
I don't believe,
Okay.
we have not offered him anything yet.
Okay, let's do the number crunching on that and let them know what's going on
Okay.
as far as, the standard policy that we
Sure.
would operate under.
Okay.
Is everybody okay with that?
I'm okay with it.
Anything else on the
That's it.
operations? Okay. John has elaborated quite a bit on what's going on with operations since he's taken over. I had reviewed the short-term plan that was presented to us, and a lot of the indications within the short-term plan, we're starting to knock these off. I'm not gonna bore you guys with all my notes, but we are going to put on the agenda for the next meeting a short-term plan update, which will highlight a lot of the areas within the short-term plan that we've accomplished and are accomplishing in order to reach the goal of meeting most, if not all, of the short-term plan that was presented to us by the committee. There was a lot of really good stuff in there, and automation was a big part of it. Determining how to control the water loss. All these things are being worked on and all these things are being addressed. But I'm gonna have a presentation at the next meeting over the short-term plan goals and what goals we have met and what goals we're gaining on. So we'll have a better understanding of where we're at on that, because that is a good plan. It's a good plan that I think we should continue with, so. Moving on to new business, our accountant, Alan, was going to present the rate study. One of the things that we discussed when we didn't have a quorum, and I was able to sit down and talk with him about it, is that, although he is crunching the numbers based on last year's numbers and based on, the first part of this year, he would like to see a couple more months before he makes the final recommendation on a rate correction, on his rate study, because we've made so many changes in the last 6 months at the water district, that he wants to get a better snapshot, a several month snapshot to determine where the rates would need to be. And then he's going to have a proposal not only for the rates, but the outlook for the next few years. He has some preliminary information here, but he did express to me that he would like to see a few more months before, so that would coordinate along with our 6-month review of the budget. We could maybe take that into consideration at that point, but he will be able to present all that information at the next meeting. Did anybody have any questions on what he had presented to us? Okay. The last item on the agenda is a resolution addressing procedures. One of the things we asked Bill, our attorney, to start to address as he came on board and started raking over all of our documentation and our policies. And another thing that was in our short-term plan was to make sure that our policies are squared away. Some of the things that he's looking at state statutes that we have to meet, and also the policies that we currently have on board, and trying to match those up. He had a resolution for addressing the procedures. You guys wanna grab that out real quick? I've got my paperwork all messed up, so,
Should be the last 2 pages.
yeah, I probably moved the last 2 pages. I started going through and made too many piles is what I did,
Yeah, same here.
so give me just a moment. Oh, here it is. What was the last 2 pages? Thank you, man. So it's a resolution from Public Water District 1 of Stone County, Missouri, authorizing charges for copies and documents provided under the Sunshine Law request, and authorizing the required by judicial decision, the closing of records that are permitted to be closed under section 610.021 State Statute RSMO. There is a number of points within this. There's 7 sections that coincide with the state statutes, and for us to get our policies in line with state statutes, this is just the beginning of many documents that you're gonna see from them, in order for us to make sure that all of our policies jive with what the state statute requires. So I need a motion to approve resolution addressing procedures.
I make a motion.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Passes. Seeing no further business in front of the board, we stand adjourned. Thank you. I had my packet from last week, and then I had my packet from this week.
Yeah, that's what I said.
And I had made notes on my packet, but then I had the other packet.